Here's the strangest thing. The most lost people on earth don't even know they're lost. They don't wake up one morning and think, "Today, I'm going to disappear to make everyone else comfortable." It happens slowly, quietly. It starts with a yes said out loud while everything inside you was screaming no. With an apology you never owed anyone. With a version of yourself assembled piece by piece, carefully engineered to avoid judgment, to stay safe, to belong. And then, one day you look in the mirror, and the person staring back at you is a stranger. Not because something dramatic happened, not because of one single moment you can point to, but because somewhere along the road, you made yourself smaller so many times that you forgot what it felt like to take up space. This video isn't about ego. It's not about selfishness or becoming someone cold and unreachable. It's about something far rarer than that. Something most people spend their entire lives chasing in the wrong direction. Identity. That quiet, unshakable force that rises back to the surface the moment you stop searching for yourself out there. And finally have the courage to look within. Stay until the end. Because what comes next might permanently change the way you see yourself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think about that night. You know the one. The night you said yes to something you didn't want. A commitment, a favor, a situation you walked into with your eyes open, knowing it wasn't right for you, and said yes anyway. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a job. Maybe it was just one conversation where you smiled and nodded and swallowed everything you actually wanted to say. And you went home with that strange weight sitting in your chest. Not anger, not quite sadness. Something worse than both. The feeling of having betrayed yourself. It didn't happen because you're weak. It happened because somewhere early on, you learned a lesson that felt like survival at the time. You learned that to be accepted, you had to be available. Always. For everyone. Unconditionally. For every single person in your life. Except yourself. So you adapted. You smoothed out your edges. You took a step back when every instinct told you to move forward. You put your own needs at the bottom of a list that somehow never gets shorter, never gets empty. You drifted away from your own inner voice, that visceral, gut-deep signal that used to tell you when something was right or wrong for you. You stopped listening to it because listening was inconvenient. It was complicated. It cost too much. And without realizing it, you started projecting, pouring outward what you couldn't hold inside, the guilt, the fear, the desires you'd buried and never acknowledged. You looked to other people to reflect something back to you. You wanted someone to see you, really see you, and say, "You're enough, exactly as you are." But no one came. Or they came, and it still wasn't enough. And you couldn't understand why you still felt hollow after everything. Here's the truth no one tells you. Nobody can fill from the outside what's empty on the inside. No relationship, no achievement, no amount of validation from people who don't even fully know you. That space has only one address, and it's inside you. And that's where it starts. The low energy, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. That constant low-grade feeling that the life you're living is somehow adjacent to yours. Close, but not quite. Like you're watching your own story through a window instead of actually living it. You might have success. Real, visible, measurable success. You might love the people around you with everything you've got. But underneath all of it, something is missing. A voice that's been getting quieter, getting farther away, like a signal fading out on a long drive through nowhere. And at some point, maybe it's late at night, maybe it's in the middle of a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, it surfaces. That question you've been running from. Where did I go? Not where did the job go? Not where did the relationship go? Not where did the money or the motivation or the good years go? Where did I go? That's the question that changes everything. Because the moment you stop running from it is the moment the real journey begins. The shift doesn't arrive with a thunderclap. It doesn't come packaged as an epiphany with cinematic lighting and a perfectly timed musical swell. It comes as a pause. One moment where you stop running toward other people's expectations, toward approval, toward the endless noise of everything outside you. And you just go still. And in that stillness, for the first time in a long time, you hear something. You hear yourself. It's uncomfortable. There's a silence in there that feels almost threatening. A hollow space that you've been avoiding for months, maybe years. But if you can stay in it, just 1 second longer than every instinct tells you to flee, you discover something that changes the game entirely. That emptiness isn't your enemy. It's space. Sacred, necessary space. Room to come back to yourself. And in that space, the real questions finally get to breathe. What do I actually want? When did I decide that to be loved, I had to become someone else? How long have I been living on someone else's terms? These questions are uncomfortable. They're the kind that don't have easy answers, and they don't come with a timeline. But they are the beginning of something. The beginning of freedom. Because now you can see it. You can see the roles you've been playing. The masks you've worn for so long you forgot they were masks. The words you swallowed. The dreams you put on hold, just for now, that are still sitting there, waiting, patient as stone. And you understand something that no one outside of you could have ever handed you. Only you can bring yourself back to the center. That power belongs to no one else. It never did. And slowly, not all at once, not in some grand dramatic gesture, you start to find your way home. Not a place, not a house or a city or a relationship. Something deeper, something that was always there even when you couldn't feel it. Yourself. You find an anchor that doesn't move when the world shakes. A stability that doesn't collapse when other people don't understand you. A foundation that exists completely independent of anyone else's opinion of you. Being centered doesn't mean feeling invincible. It doesn't mean the hard days disappear or the doubt stops showing up at the door. It means knowing where to return when everything outside falls apart. It's that voice inside that says, quietly, without fanfare, without needing to perform for anyone, I'm here. I'm still here. And that's enough. #escalation. There's a specific moment. You don't recognize it right away. It doesn't come with a warning signal. It doesn't have a date circled on any calendar. But if you're honest with yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that moment when you look in the mirror and you can't hold your own gaze. Not out of shame, not out of fear, but because the person staring back at you has become a stranger. Like an old friend you haven't spoken to in years. You recognize the face, but you wouldn't know what to say to him anymore. I suppose that to say, this is where we've arrived. Not through some sudden collapse, not through a visible crisis, but through that slow, silent erosion of self that happens every single time you say yes, when everything inside you is screaming no. And the further you go, the wider that gap becomes. You know what the mind does when you stop listening to it? It gets louder. Not with words, with a body that tightens without reason, with exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, with that quiet, constant sensation of living a life that looks like yours, but doesn't quite fit, like wearing a suit that's exactly your size, but cut for someone else entirely. And here's the most insidious part. The further you drift from yourself, the harder you search in other people for what you stopped giving yourself. You look for confirmation, for approval, for that one look from someone that says, "You're enough." And when it doesn't come, or worse, when it does come and it still isn't enough, you can't understand why you still feel hollow inside. The answer was always there. You just stopped looking at it, because no one from the outside can fill that space. No relationship, no achievement, no number on a screen. Only you can find your way back. Only you know the road. But first, you have to stop. Really stop. And look directly at what you've been avoiding. Sakrir. The story, example, picture a man, call him Marco if you need a name, who spent years building his entire life around other people's expectations. He wasn't unhappy, not in the way the world would recognize as unhappiness. He had a solid career, relationships, a routine, all the right pieces in all the right places. But every Sunday evening, when the silence settled over the house, he felt something he couldn't name. A quiet pressure in the center of his chest. Not pain. Something more subtle than that. Like a question that had gone unanswered for far too long. Marco had learned early that being loved meant being useful. Being there for everyone. Saying the right things. Not making waves. Never letting anyone down. So he had refined that skill until it was second nature. He knew exactly how to act in every room, knew what to say to be liked, what to hold back to avoid judgment. He had become a master of adaptation, an expert at wearing masks. The problem? He had done it so well, for so long, that he no longer knew where the mask ended and where he began. Then came that one evening, dinner with old friends, laughter, wine, the comfortable rhythm of familiar conversation. At some point, almost casually, someone looked at him and asked, "But Marco, what do you actually want? Not for anyone else, just you." Silence. Not the silence of someone thinking. The silence of someone who doesn't know. Of someone who opens a drawer they haven't touched in years and finds it completely empty. He deflected with a joke, redirected with a smile, and the conversation moved on. But something inside him didn't. That night, driving home, the question followed him like a shadow. What do I actually want? And the honest answer, the one he didn't have the courage to say out loud, even to himself, was, "I don't know anymore." He didn't know because he had spent years constructing a version of himself that worked for everyone else. Years of calibrating, adjusting, softening every edge. Being the dependable colleague, the steady partner, the son who never caused problems. All of those things were real. All of them were genuinely his. But they had been stitched together in a way that left no room at the center. The center was empty. And that night, for the first time in longer than he could remember, instead of filling that emptiness with his phone, with noise, with anything external, he just stayed in it. He sat with the feeling, breathed into it, let it exist. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't some cinematic revelation with the right music and the perfect lighting. It was uncomfortable, quiet, almost unremarkable. But it was real. And that reality, that small, fragile, uncomfortable reality, was more his than anything he had felt in years. From that moment, something began to shift. not all at once, not with any grand gesture. It shifted through small choices, a no said without excessive apology. A conversation he'd been avoiding for years finally faced head-on. Permission granted to himself, quietly, without fanfare, to want something without having to justify it to anyone. It shifted in the way he looked at himself. No longer that critical, relentless gaze, always searching for flaws to fix. But something quieter, almost curious. The way you look at someone you're genuinely just beginning to know. And the closer he got to himself, the more clearly he understood something fundamental. He didn't need to become someone else. He didn't need to be stronger, braver, or more certain. He didn't need to add anything at all. He just needed to stop betraying himself. Every day, in every small choice, in every word spoken or swallowed. Stop putting himself last as though it were an act of generosity, when in truth, it was an act of abandonment. Because you cannot genuinely give to someone else what you are not willing to give to yourself first. That's not selfishness. That's the foundation. And when that foundation begins to stabilize, when you stop building on sand and return to the bedrock of who you actually are, everything around you begins to resonate differently. Relationships become more honest. Decisions become clearer. That inner voice, the one you silenced for so long, starts speaking to you again. And this time, you listen. Because now you know what happens when you don't. And that awareness, that small, powerful, irreversible awareness, is the point of no return. The moment you stop searching for yourself out there and start finding your way back home. Hashtag the final English script. You want to know the exact moment everything changes. It's not when someone finally understands you. It's not when you get what you've been waiting for. It's not when things magically work themselves out. The exact moment is this. When you stop searching out there for something that only exists in here. Listen. There's a voice you know well. You've always known it. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It whispers, low, steady, almost beneath the noise. It tells you what you actually want. It tells you when you're lying to yourself. It tells you when you're about to walk through a door you shouldn't. But in the relentless noise of everyday life, that voice gets buried. Under other people's expectations, under the need to be liked, to be useful, to be enough for everyone else. Under that quiet, persistent terror of letting someone down. So you learn to ignore it. One day, 1 month, 1 year, until that voice becomes a distant echo. And you find yourself living a life that looks like yours, but doesn't feel like it. Think about that moment. You know the one. When you said yes, and everything inside you was screaming no. Maybe it was a job. Maybe a relationship. Maybe just a favor, a conversation, a night you didn't want to give away. You smiled, you nodded, you gave in. And afterward, you felt hollow. Not tired, not sad. Hollow. That feeling has a name. It's called self-betrayal. And the most devastating part isn't that it happens. It's that you get used to it. You get used to putting yourself last, like it's generosity, when really it's abandonment. You get used to shrinking your desires down to something more manageable, more acceptable, less inconvenient for the room. You get used to feeling guilty for taking up space, as if existing fully is a privilege you have to earn. But it's not a privilege. It's a birthright. The problem isn't out there. It's not the wrong people. It's not bad timing. It's not circumstances conspiring against you. The problem is the distance. The distance between who you are and and who you've allowed yourself to be. And that distance closes with one thing only. Not willpower, not discipline, not another productivity system or motivational framework. Presence. Your presence to yourself. The moment you come back to feeling. The moment you actually stop, really stop, and listen to what's happening underneath all the noise. The moment you stop asking the world to tell you who you are and start answering that question yourself. Right there, in that quiet, courageous stillness. That's where everything begins. There's a man who, at a certain point in his life, looked in the mirror and didn't recognize himself. Not because he'd changed on the outside, but because he'd spent years, whole years, building a version of himself that was acceptable to everyone around him. Kinder than he needed to be. More available than he should have been. Always present for others, and almost never for himself. And that morning, standing in front of that mirror, something became undeniably clear. He didn't know what he wanted anymore. Not in the big sense, not just the career or the right relationship. In the smallest, most intimate sense. What he actually enjoyed. What made him genuinely laugh. What moved him from the inside. Not because someone asked. Not because it looked good. But because it was real. He had optimized himself for the world. And in doing so, he had lost himself completely. That story. You recognize it. Maybe not in the specific details, but in that feeling. That specific exhaustion that has nothing to do with how many hours you worked. It's the exhaustion of constantly performing a version of yourself that isn't quite you. That's where the real cost lives. Not in the hours, not in the physical output, in the identity. Every time you suppress what you feel to avoid conflict, you pay with a piece of yourself. Every time you smile when you want to say enough, you pay with a piece of yourself. Every time you wait for someone else's permission to do the thing you already know is right for you, you pay with a piece of yourself. And eventually, the tab gets too high. But here's what's extraordinary. The moment you see it, really see it, is the same moment it stops costing you. Because awareness isn't a sentence, it's a door. When you recognize the pattern, you're no longer trapped inside it. You're outside of it. You can observe it. You can choose differently. And that choice, even when it's small, even when it's imperfect, even when it's uncomfortable as hell, is the most radical act available to any human being. Choosing yourself, not against others, not with arrogance or indifference, but with that quiet, unshakable clarity that says, I'm here, I matter, my voice deserves to be heard, by me before anyone else. When you start doing that, something fundamentally shifts. Relationships change. Not because the people around you suddenly transform, but because of what you bring into those relationships. You bring presence instead of need. You bring clarity instead of approval seeking. You bring yourself the real version, not a performance of yourself crafted to make others comfortable. And real connections recognize that difference immediately. Work changes too. You stop chasing validation that drains you. You start moving toward meaning that actually fills you. And that distinction between doing something to be seen and doing something because it's true, that distinction shows up in everything you create, everything you say, everything you build. Even your relationship with your own body changes. You stop treating it like a machine to optimize or a flaw to correct. You start actually inhabiting it. With respect, with attention, with gratitude for everything it does every single day while you're too busy looking outward to notice. All of it, every single piece of it, traces back to one decision. The decision that you will not abandon yourself anymore. Not for love, not for fear, not for the comfort of being easy to deal with. Whatever happens out there, in here, you stay. Present, grounded, yours. This is the climax, not a dramatic scene, not a thunderbolt moment. It's a silence, deep, stable, ancient. The silence of someone who has finally come home. And from that silence, everything else becomes possible. None of for if you made it this far, that wasn't an accident. The people who stay until the end aren't looking for entertainment. They're looking for something true. Something that reflects what they already feel deep down, but haven't yet found the words to say out loud. You're one of those people. And this journey back to yourself, doesn't end when this video does. It starts here. If something in these words landed, if something shifted even slightly, let it be known. Drop a comment, even a single word, even just a period on an empty line, because every honest response helps build something far bigger than a channel. It helps build a community of people who have made the same decision to stop walking away from themselves. Subscribe if you haven't already. Not for the numbers, not for the algorithm, to continue this conversation, because the next videos go even deeper, and I want you there for it. And if you know someone, a friend, a brother, someone going through that quiet crisis of losing sight of themselves, send them this. Sometimes the right words, arriving at the right moment, are enough to change the entire direction of a life. Remember one thing as you close this out. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to stop moving further away from who you already are. You are the starting point. You are the destination. And from there, everything can genuinely change.